Okay, welcome to the Flow Chats episode 2. We are back. It took a little longer than anticipated, but life happens. I recently went to a wedding at the Good Luck Bar in Joburg, and it was not only a wedding but also Cortina Whiplash's album launch for their new release called We Do, which was sort of themed around a wedding and a commitment of the 3 members of the band all to each other. So shortly after that happened, I arranged a meeting with Cortina's guitarist, Tessa, and that's what you're listening to today. Here we go. I want to start by I feel like I need a bit of a history lesson or something, which essentially comes down to, were you part of Rocker Lewis?
I was briefly part of, well, when I say briefly, like a few years part of Rocker Lewis. What happened was, there was an original lineup, and then when I came into the picture, it was Luandi on bass, a girl called Pietru Pina as the vocalist, and Oriel was guitarist, and Janine, Cortina's previous drummer, was drummer for that band. And I was studying with Luandi, and she just asked me one day, like, can you fill in, like, or do you want to join my band? And I'm like, yeah, cool, some guitar. Like, she's like, our first gig is at Tings with Wonderboom in like a week. It's going to be rad. I'm like, great, cool.
Yeah.
Then, like, the story I found out later was that they had played a show, I think it was, not Kaka and Ka, what's the Art Club? And they'd had like a big fight and fallout. And Oriel had quit, and so had Janine. So the drummer and the guitarist had quit like the day before. And Lou called me up, and they'd got in as a replacement for drums. They'd got in Heiser from Battery Nige, or Heiser Burger, and he was just there playing beats, like playing samples. It was like a complete disaster. The show in the end was just, it was so bad. And I even remember drummer from Wonderboom saying, no, it was really punk, really punk. And we're like, thanks, dude.
But I feel like the label of punk is something you can justify a lot of things with. Just call it punk.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out or whatever. But so were you with that band for a while?
Yeah, we ended up playing for quite a while after that. Recorded a song called Brandje Bra. And then I guess I'm trying to think of the timeline. Probably a good 2 years or so, I played with them. And in between, it was kind of weird because Oriel and I met and we started dating. So there was all this weird, like a very strange dynamic going on, but we were all still kind of friends and in the same scene. And then Pietru fell pregnant and decided to start a family, and when she left, we switched up and put Lulu on vocals, and that became Cortina. Decided to start doing English tunes.
So it was sort of a natural evolution into Cortina Whiplash.
It was kind of like we're not ready to stop. Can respect Pietru's decision, but yeah, we want to keep going. So I guess it was. Evolution or just new band. I guess same people. Yeah, similar sentiment, I guess.
And then you mentioned you studied, was that music?
Yes,
okay.
At China University of Pretoria. They have a jazz program. Yeah, studied there, met Luandi there. I don't think she finished her degree, but that's how we met. Yeah, this is true. Some kids who came through there were just so talented. And then they were in and they were out. Like some were better, scholarship somewhere, cool.
Yeah, then the other thing about that specifically is it's branded as jazz, I think, but I think it's versatile, and the people who come out of jazz come out with a lot of like versatile skills.
Totally.
And the one person I'm thinking of now who also went there is Jason Hinch.
Yes.
Who's like keeps surprising me with the bands he drums with and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
He's definitely not a one-trick pony.
No. That's, I guess, the nature of jazz, especially like the emphasis on improvisation and also like song structure, how things work, so that you learn the kind of natural order of things, and then you can mess with it, you know. Whereas I feel like classical, which was the only other option when I wanted to study, is much more rigid. It's on paper, it is what it is, you know, like. So that's what appealed to me, and I think which is why so many great musicians come through there and go on to do like various like diverse things, you know, interesting things.
Yeah, but then also like with Cortina Whiplash, for example, I keep thinking it's hard to pin you down or box you in as a band, as a sort of a genre, because it also has an element of different things popping up. And especially like with your album launch the other night with the horn section, I was like really impressed in how much that adds to...
Dude, I wish we could play...
And how much that moves it away from a straight like rock and roll vibe.
Awesome.
Is it like it kind of instantly, almost as a cheat, becomes a more classy thing.
Yeah.
But,
brass is class. Brass is class. Yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure to play with the horn section. I wish I could afford to have a big band all the time, because I think people have a certain stereotypical idea of how horns should behave in music, and it's really nice to combine stuff and do weird shit with the instruments you use, which, I mean, we didn't really push it as much as I think we could if we really went there, you know?
No.
But yeah, more classy, I guess I hear what you're saying. We do have elements of jazz because of our backgrounds, and I think, you say it's hard to pin us. I think a lot of people do pin us as something that we're not, you know? Because we're definitely not just a girl punk band, or... You know, we take our music quite seriously, and I think individually we all have our own like strong backgrounds in music. It's not just it's fun like I mean, it's fun, but not, you know what I mean, light superficial thing for us.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, which I think especially with the idea of like being a girl band is most of the time if you see someone. Like a band being marketed as a girl band, it's kind of a gimmick. It's a well, we knew this drummer who's really good, but he was a guy, so we can't get him kind of thing. Where it feels like you're not a girl band because that's the rule, that's the definition of who you are.
Yeah.
It just kind of happened to be that way.
Yeah, we always used to say that. We just were girls hanging out and good friends, and we all resonated with each other. And we started a band in the garage, you know. No. Like very much children of the 90s, like that's almost what we were taught to do, like pick up an instrument, plug it in your garage and Joel, like, and let it out.
Yeah. So sorry, back to the horns guys. They were the same people you used on the album.
Yes. That is Jack, Lebo and Malusi. Lebo was playing trombone, Malusi was playing sax, and Jack was playing trumpet. They're a really cool section. They're all friends as well, which is always the nicest thing about people who jam together a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys just can come in, play whatever you want them to play, you know, with flair and put their own touch on stuff. Yeah, and like I said, I met those guys in TUT. They all stay in Pretoria, all from Pretoria. Pretoria actually has a very cool group of musicians, very, very talented.
Yeah, I think especially sort of the serious musicians.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's this weird difference between sort of band guys who's often just like the pick up an instrument and do it in the garage things, and people who like studied or do it for a living or do session work kind of thing. Yeah. And but I guess the session guys, the pro guys, we have some really good people around.
Yeah. I think there's guys, and I have a lot of respect for full-time musicians who are really out there pushing, and they're doing it as a career. So they're really good at what they do, and they do it a lot, and they hustle and play plenty of shows. And it becomes a different thing to, say, someone who decides to start a band as a sort of side thing or creative outlet or whatever. You know, something that you do occasionally. So it breeds like a different mentality, and it is to me almost a different thing, you know, a different experience. Like session work versus creative projects, very different experience, especially band projects. like being a band. Cortina's a band. We're friends. We've been together for 10 years. It's a completely different beast to, you know, say, standing in as second guitar.
Yeah.
On like a, yeah. Which is cool too.
Yeah, which is like I also think it's a interesting balance between you guys kind of being friends, but also like taking it really seriously and being good at what you do.
Yeah.
It's a like I think a combination that isn't always there.
No, it's rare these days to find bands that have been together, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I mean,
in like,
if you only look at how long Cortina's been going, it's
yeah, I think this is still back to the 90s children thing. Like, it's, you know, it's a part, it's something instilled in me that I thought was part of the experience. There's a certain energy that starts to come into play when you are creating stuff with your friends and people you know, and especially know musically. You know, it starts to, I think, become its own thing. Which is what's exciting when it comes to bands. I like to see what are these people gonna make, you know, and that depends on so many different things. And for me, I can't separate that from your connection with the people you're creating it with. Like, to me, that's quite important, you know. But I don't think it's not possible to make music with people who you acquaintances with or whatever. Good music too, but for me, it's something that's important.
So in other words, getting those horn guys on the album who you already knew previously, right?
Yeah.
That was a nice natural integration. But like, how did it come about? Did you go, this song could use some?
We've just, like, through our years, like, and our friends, we just know so many great musicians, and basically everyone who was on the album was like a friend and people we've known for a long time. And always wanted to do things with, but never really gotten around to doing it. So it was just a normal, natural idea to say, like, let's do whatever, you know. Let's just get them on and see what happens. And with the horns, they came in and found their own lines. We just asked them to interpret it their own way, which is also part of I love that part of the creative process, because you bring in somebody else's flavor altogether, stuff we would never consider putting on our music, which is what's exciting. Yeah. So if that was kind of everyone's brief, and so I think they brought it nicely. So it just shows like genres are irrelevant, you know. Yeah. And
then, so I mean, with Cortina Whiplash, it feels like you're pushing things and including new things that weren't there the last time, on the last album at least.
Yeah. Sorry.
But do you have limits or rules? Are you ever gonna go like, that's not Cortina, let's not do that?
I don't know. I think we're thinking not in those terms so much anymore. This album was a real, like, personal endeavor, and we were like, we're gonna do what we want to do. We have the space and the time to do that, and nobody kind of telling us how we should do it. With the first one, we were still quite young. And we worked with Brendan Jury, and he sort of tried to help us structure things into a more pop-orientated thing, which is a weird thing to do with Cortina, because we're exactly not that. And I think we also saw that didn't really help, you know, much or change our audience or anything. So we decided, like, fuck it, we're going to do what we want to do. And because it doesn't really matter, like, we're not doing it for any other reason than to have some sort of recording of our history and you know, of our vibe, like a snapshot. Yeah,
I love the idea of thinking of recordings that way.
Yeah.
Also because I kind of feel like you sometimes get the idea with musicians and people of like, you work on a song, you get it perfect, and then you record it. Where I feel like that limits you to changing it afterwards. Where I kind of feel like you should keep that as a snapshot, and then feel free to do mess with it again, and then change it and make it better, or whatever, definitely. Or delete verses that aren't relevant anymore. Stuff.
You should always be open to change when it comes to music, and open to criticism, and all those things are important as a musician. I always find it very strange when people aren't willing to change or try new things, for me, that's always been an important part of my musical journey. Like, I don't want to play stuff I already know how to play. I want to learn new stuff. I want to be out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And, you know, pushed. And so I think all of that outside playing comes into Cortina, and our mentality has always been to not sound like anyone else. I guess that's been our objective. And like I was saying to you earlier, we've kind of started to realize that maybe deliberately antagonizing people with our music is not the best way to make a living. But then again, it was never really about that. But it's kind of coming to a point as we get older where we would like to be able to continue creating without it costing us our like stability, I guess, you know, because we've compromised a lot to continue and to keep it open and creative and unbound.
So, speaking of being bound, you recently got married.
Oh yeah.
How was that?
It was great.
That's the three of you getting married all to each other.
Yes. Our album launch. You know what? Like, I never saw myself getting married, and I've always kind of judged it. But this was great. I mean, I'm glad I can say I've gotten married in my life, and it was lovely. It was a very special day. We did it as a symbolic gesture on a few levels. The first one, obviously, personal. Our commitment to each other and our music is something we wanted to celebrate because we feel like 10 years together is an achievement to be proud of. So there was that. Then there was also obviously the idea that 3 women are getting married, considering the homophobic air in the world at the moment, or however homophobia has been around for a long time. So there was that level as well. We just wanted to make a statement with it. And also just, I guess, like play on the idea of this like opulent ceremony, that people generally place value on traditions without considering whether they're relevant, practical, destructive even. I think that's part of the problem with the world. We're just so destructive, and we do things mindlessly without ever considering what effect they're having. And not to say that marriage isn't a beautiful thing, but I think sometimes people place emphasis on it in a very materialistic way that defies what it actually is. So,
and then, like, also on top of that, I kind of feel like it made for a very special album launch. It's like unlike anything I've seen, and then it's like memorable and nice. And
were you entertained?
Yes.
Excellent.
Even by the streamers and the dresses and the things. It's I think kind of not enough people make something like that out of an album launch. It's a hey, come listen to the new songs kind of thing. But it's a great opportunity to sort of do something.
To create an event. Yeah, like I think we're kind of, as humans, we're a bit spoiled, and our attention spans are quite short. So we've seen a decline, like in people going to shows and just wanting people to come listen to your music. And I also often find bands are kind of arrogant about it as well. Is not working. No one has to go see you play or think you're great or anything. You should have a reason for them to be there paying you. Yeah. And we really wanted to do something that was going to be entertaining and have stuff happening aside from us just playing. I think it would be great if more events just thought a bit more creatively and did that.
But it is something like I mentioned specifically that album launches are never like that. But I do think in general people are starting to sort of put more thought into it. Definitely. And have little theme nights and things, and I do think that's kind of working to an extent to bring people out and and something like the wedding thing. I also feel like that's valuable because it's a one night only. It's if you're not there,
It's over,
you're gonna see the photos on Facebook, and that's it.
That's it, done. Yeah. It does make it, I guess, more special. Rarity always does, you know. But we saw with the launch, even on a financial level, it paid off to do that. It made us think it's probably a better idea to do bigger shows and make them more interesting, and invest that time and just do fewer of them, you know.
Yeah.
And really start pushing. But it's a thing we're kind of not that keen on taking on, you know. It does cost a lot of time and energy to do those sorts of things, and we all just kind of trying to like do our day-to-day thing as well.
Yeah, and at the same time, if you and I feel like most bands have this mentality of even if there's not a lot of people at the show, it's still fun to go out and play a show.
Yeah.
Which means you want to do it, and you want to do it like every weekend or something. Which means it's kind of a burden on yourself also to not do it every weekend. To go, let's play less shows for these reasons. But now, oh bummer, I have to play less shows.
Yeah, I guess there is that. But I mean, we've played so many shows in our lives, and like any show you can imagine, any sort of little dingy pub or nothing town like show, and I think we're a little tired, and kind of it's nice to treasure the experience a bit more and have a show that's just got a bit more attention and energy in it. But we do often have a conflict in terms of gigs that pay and gigs that we actually want to play and put on ourselves. Like we're kind of bound by the money to a certain extent, and you end up playing shows you wouldn't necessarily choose to play as well. But I guess it's the constant dilemma, like trying to make a career of it and trying to retain creative control and choice. Yeah,
and it kind of feels to me like that core conflict between the two sides is never really gonna go away. No. Even if you're like madly successful and everyone wants to book you, it's still gonna be a thing of why are we doing the show, and should we really, and is it because we want to, or is it because we need to, kind of thing.
I think there are some places like Reunion Island was refreshing as a socialist country. Like they have things like if you can prove you play a certain amount of gigs in a month, you get a pension and you're considered a working person. Little things like that, you know, would go a long way. And it's a sad reality that artists have to choose. And I think all artists have to kind of balance the two. Unless they're fortunate enough to have financial backing somehow. So, like I think we would hear so much more and see so much more if it was more like realistically supported and people understood the value of the creative arts. We kind of put it down there after everything.
It's a scenario I've run through my head once. At a party, people were talking about Africa Burn, actually. And the conversation came down to that is essentially society collapses and starts over kind of the situation. You don't have the infrastructure and the backing and whatever. You have to kind of rely on yourselves and what you take with you kind of situation. And people at this party were saying, well, what if society collapsed? What would we do? What would your role be? And that made me realize that everything I do in life, like my job and whatever, is like luxury things. It's things like entertainment, which there's nothing and we need to fight or hunt.
Like you need to know how to start a fire.
I don't know if I would have any relevant skills, which would probably make me the first person who gets eaten.
Well,
which sucks. Maybe I should learn some fire making or hunting.
I feel like, but at the same time, I feel like music has been such a part of us forever. And it is like one of our fundamental things. Like you can say the heartbeat of your mother in the womb informs your sense of rhythm from before you're even like consciously aware of music. I just think it's a really valuable thing that we underestimate. And maybe in that scenario, like someone like trying to play Oasis at the campsite is going to just irritate people.
But the thing is, like, if you're a group of 10 people and 5 people know how to hunt and you've got enough food, then there's
maybe
space for a guy inventing a drum or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I think we're lucky to live in a world so filled with media and music and things and entertainment.
True.
That even though if you're a band and you want to make your mark, it sucks that there's so much competition. But as a human with a cell phone in your hand, kind of, I can listen to pretty much any song I want to at any point. It's pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. I actually find it quite overwhelming, actually. You know, there's so much out there that I'm never going to hear, you know.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'm a super indecisive person.
Yeah.
So presenting me 2 options and it's easy, but if there's 5,
you're screwed.
Yeah. So
and now there's just infinite choice.
Yeah, it's like
so I guess that's kind of made us become more invested in our creative side and realizing that we're doing this for ourselves. That's like what it comes down to. So we might as well do it in a way that makes us comfortable and happy, you know.
Yeah. So speaking of that, there's a lot of people who kind of saying that albums are dead, CD sales don't make money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you still made an album. Is that a kind of thing of like, well, we want to make an album, we're going to do it whether it sells or not?
Yeah, definitely in a way it was, but we do, you know, like we've never really made money, so it's kind of much of a muchness. We have gotten a bit smarter as time's gone on, and having a physical album to sell is good and valuable still, especially if live shows is your thing.
Yeah.
We started making, like kind of matching our gig fees with merch sales, so that it is valuable in that sense. I mean, we're a small scale independent band, like I can't speak, I wish we could release a single and make money off it and have it go crazy, but the odds of that are pretty slim. Yeah. So yeah, we do what we can, and it's been a cool journey because we've collaborated with so many people, and we have like a family, a musical family, and the launch was special for me on that level. People from all walks of our lives came and pulled through and helped us make it cool, which was
and it also like to me, being at your launch and looking at the people, it felt like this is your fan base, this is your family, this is the sort of, if there's a thing like regulars, that's them. Yeah,
totally. That it was so special for me on that level. It was people who'd been coming to our shows since we started, you know. It was special. I think it's funny because, I mean, as all ideas kind of start as just drunk sort of jokes one night. We had a song called Music Ruined My Life, a tongue-in-cheek song. And we were like, oh, it's funny, let's get married. It would be so funny, we'll call it We Do, you know. And as things went along, it started to feel very real, you know, and meaningful. And that culminated on that night, having all the people there that had been a part of it. This made it special. So it actually, I guess, felt like what I would assume a wedding would feel like. Yeah, you know,
because that's also the sense I got. Is it was way more of a wedding than I kind of thought it would be.
Yeah, same.
You know, it's
same.
It's like you had a little ceremony with. You made little speeches as well, which was all about committing to each other, and I'm like, that's why you have a wedding is to make a promise to each other and stuff like that.
Totally.
And have a rad party afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Good music, food. I'm glad it came across that way to outsiders, you know, because that's how it was for us. It was special, and and meaningful. And we even started to feel like we'd gotten married. Like the next day we were all calm and like cool. Yeah, so it's been good so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you mind if I make some tea quickly?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so that is a tea break in the conversation, which all good conversations need. So while they/we are making another cup of tea, this would be the point in a podcast, if this podcast had any sponsors, for example, where we could include a little sponsored ad, you know, and that would sound something like, hey, I just got Cortina Whiplash's new album called We Do. It's called We Do because they did this whole wedding theme thing, and it was a spectacular album launch. You should have been there, but you can always go see the photos on Facebook or whatever. Or, if you couldn't be there, just buy the album. It's pretty cool. It's the old Cortina Whiplash, you know, but expanded in slightly different cool ways. They've got extra instruments here and there, at least one sort of slow down mellow song. It's pretty cool, pretty diverse, and why haven't you listened to it yet? It's available at their shows on CD for the old schoolers. But it's also on Bandcamp at cortinawhiplash.bandcamp.com, and it should be on iTunes and Deezer and Google and all those things pretty soon. So keep your eyes out for it and go get yourself one, or listen to it, or however you consume music these days, because it's such a puzzle. Yep, Cortina Whiplash's new album, We Do. Or maybe an ad would sound something like this. TheFlow.co.za is an entertainment blog. It's run from Gauteng and has a soft spot for local content, but covers all sorts of things music and movie-wise. So for movie reviews, music reviews, interviews with interesting people, go to TheFlow.co.za. Because as we say at The Flow, why not? Okay, enough of that. Now, back to the conversation. What I wanted to ask you about as well is the Reunion Island thing, which has become a thing now. And when did that start and how?
Reunion started 3 years ago. Wait, maybe a little bit before that. That was our first trip to Reunion 3 years ago. We met Pascal at Opikopi one year. We played on the Scallum stage. And she just came up to us afterwards and was like, hey, would you like to come to Reunion? And we were like, we don't know where that is, but yeah, sounds great. Didn't think much of it, gave her our email address, and she contacted us. And the rest is history. They have a punk collective on the island. It's a group of musicians and friends. And we've been doing an exchange with them. So their bands come over here and we host them. They're actually due to send somebody to us.
No.
Yeah. So that's Reunion. We went back the second time to play a music conference called IOMA. Mm-hmm. It was a music market more. You showcase yourself, and there's promoters and event organizers, and you just get to have one-on-ones with them. It was actually really cool. Our equivalent is Moshito. So that was a completely different experience for us, because with Pascal and the rest of the guys, we usually play like club gigs and sort of stuff like we would hear, like small scale shows. That was IOMA was in there, like I guess you could call them government, like venue halls.
Okay.
Yeah, they have some really nice venues and artist residencies and stuff, which is cool. Great sound, great gear, just really nice emphasis on like having quality over those things, which is lovely. And then recently we went back and played another show at one of those venues, Palaxa it's called, in the capital, and played some other shows with some of the bands there. Yeah, it's become like, I don't know, like going to visit our family, you know, and play some shows. Really cool. It's a nice thing about alternative independent projects. I think there's a whole other level of doing this which is what we've done, and it's enabled us to travel to interesting places. But you connect with people and do the exchanges. They help you book shows where they're comfortable booking shows. You do the same for them in your spaces, and you work together, put on little events.
Which I think like even like that's sort of a bigger scale international kind of thing. But I think that vibe of working together is kind of necessary to make something like a music scene work.
Yeah, definitely.
Is
definitely.
And I think that's where it's great to sort of, and you're probably gonna do that through playing shows and stuff. Is find out who your peers are and who you've got like some shared audience with or something like that, and find the people and make a little, because like you can't go, I play in a band, you play in a band, let's put a show together, or let's just all help each other.
Yeah.
Because like it's important to, I think, find that these two specific bands are like beneficial to each other.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. And the more we can work together, the better. We've always wanted to do like a sort of a union, but it never really works out. Like, be conscious of when other bands are playing, try not to book similar or big events, which is hard because there's only so many days in a year, but little things like that help. And it is a tough scene, you know, like, so every little bit of help counts. And that's what we saw, that Cortina's always operated that way, and the wedding, I guess, also was an affirmation of that. Even down to the venue, Gareth and Nicole like offered that, you know, with love and like believing in our vibes and our music, and everybody else literally there like did it for us, you know, which was really special.
Yeah, which is I feel like that's the way the music scene should ideally operate, but also that's kind of the way a wedding should happen, isn't it?
Totally. I like to think so.
So, how's the honeymoon been?
We kind of pre-honeymooned in Reunion Island, but it turned out to be quite intense. So I think we're due for another honeymoon. We'll think about that one, maybe Cape Town. See, we'll make a plan. We always say like we need to get away together as a band and just chill, you know, because we spend so much time with the pressure of like the music. It would be nice to just like hang out together, you know, a bit more, write some music, probably will happen. Can't escape the music, really.
So yeah, like speaking of that, I kind of want to ask how soon after releasing an album do you start working on the next one?
I think we've decided we're not gonna do a full-length album anytime soon. From now on, we're actually quite excited to keep making music. Also, we're gonna approach it differently, focus on singles, and do it that way. Try get a bit more media. We've always lacked on the sort of visual presence in terms of music videos and content like that. So we're trying to focus on that now going forward. So yeah, I guess in general, maybe fewer, more quality shows, more emphasis on new stuff and visual content. Yeah, explore some more creative avenues as Cortina.
So I mean, it's nothing like groundbreaking what you're talking about. No. But it is like trying to push in a slightly different direction. Yeah. Trying to change it up.
Shift, yeah. For us, it's a shift. We're all kind of establishing ourselves outside of Cortina and doing other things. And so we just want to do this consciously and in a way that makes us happy and allows us, for us it's more about the creative outlet. Well, for me at least, actually, I can't speak for my bandmates. I think sometimes I speak too much for them and they get upset with me, if I'm being honest. But yeah, for me it's the creative outlet. I want to create cool things with and bring in more artists, as like we did with the album. Really push stuff. Even at the launch, we played with Paul Joya on second guitar, which was nice to have a second guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we may consider bringing in another member, something like that.
You said something about speaking for your bandmates.
Oh yeah.
And like one thing that I find really interesting about your band is even though on stage there's a front person,
Yeah.
it feels like you're all three sort of equal shareholders in terms of what the band is and the voice of the band, like on social media and things.
Yeah.
It isn't driven by one person. It is the sort of complex 3-person union.
Yeah, I guess I see it more as like we all have different assets or things that we bring to the band. But we definitely, in our music and in the way we do things, feature a little bit of each of us in what we do, which is what makes it cool, I think. When we write music, we write together as a group. We fight. I think we fight to get our influence and push our ideas into things, which I think brings out cool ideas. Yeah.
Does the writing together thing include lyrics as well?
No. So it happens in different ways, but usually someone will have a complete lyrical idea.
Okay.
Yeah. Something they've written or... Yeah.
But it's also, in terms of the three of you, not one person's job to do lyrics kind of thing.
Everyone's welcome to contribute. If you have an idea, we're all open to it, always.
And then, in terms of your songwriting, does it often start with like a seed that someone's got of a... I've got an idea of or I've got a thing, or I've got a set of sheet lyrics, or...
Yeah, it'll either come from a jam, we'll just be jamming and I'll be like, oh, that sounds cool, let's do something. Or somebody will come with an idea and we'll start building on it. So it happens in different ways, but the end result is, I think, a little bit of each of us.
Yeah, so it ends up not being her song, or...
Not really.
But the group's song.
Yeah, there are one or two that are maybe more... that were formalized maybe by one person as a beginning. But on the whole, I would say we write like that as a group. Yeah. Which is cool. It's part of the band thing, you know, we all equally invested and we all equally get the rewards, I guess. Yeah. Which
is great. You should do something like that with that, like get married or something.
Yeah.
All three of you.
That's what we thought.
But yeah, I think we can wrap this up. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thanks for the chat.
Yeah, and thanks for allowing me to visit and ruin your honeymoon.
Nah, it's cool.
Whatever that may be.
You need a little break every now and again. Marriage life, you know.
Okay, so that was Cortina Whiplash. No, that was not Cortina Whiplash. That was 1/3 of Cortina Whiplash. It was Tessa Lily from Cortina Whiplash. She plays the guitar for them. Yeah, their new album is out. It's on CD at their shows. It's on Bandcamp and iTunes, and those things should follow shortly, so just keep an eye out for it. We have no silly little end segment this time, as we did last time. If you don't like that, feel free to send an email to moan@theflow.co.za. In fact, any sort of comments or criticisms or feedback or praise is also welcome. Amazing praise. It's always welcome. Yeah, all of the above, feel free to send an email to moan@theflow.co.za, and we listen, we'll take it into account. One important thing is this podcast is now available in the Apple Podcasts catalog, whatever it's called. It used to be iTunes. I don't think it's iTunes anymore, but Apple Podcasts, iTunes Podcasts, whatever. It's on Stitcher. And you should be able to get it on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. If you can't, again, moan@theflow.co.za. Let me know if you would like to be able to listen to this podcast somewhere, but you can't. For now, this episode will probably also be on SoundCloud and YouTube. If you're listening to it there, please go also subscribe on a podcast thing. It works a little easier there, so if that works for you, please go subscribe on a podcast thing. Also then on a podcast thing and on YouTube and on SoundCloud, there's a rating or a like or a comment thing. Feel free to please rate us, comment to us, and tell your friends if you like listening to this. Tell your friends if you don't like listening to this. Tell your friends you don't like. Tell your enemies, I mean. Yeah. Tell your enemies go listen to this thing, and then enjoy the fact that they're listening to something that you hate. Although if you really hated this podcast, you'd probably not be listening to the end. So I guess that doesn't make sense. Anyway, this podcast is brought to you by the people at TheFlow.co.za. That's me. That's my blog. So go check out TheFlow.co.za if you've got nothing to do. Otherwise, subscribe to this podcast, and there'll be a next episode soon-ish, hopefully. No promises. Goodbye.